Hey, this is your boy Kenny Braswell with 5 Flow, 5 minutes of motivation and not much more. I want to share with you something that I learned over the weekend during a class that I taught here in Atlanta called Raising Him Alone. The class was designed for single moms raising boys, but I learned so much more from them this Saturday, and I want to share that with you today. And the way that I'm going to do that is by sharing 5 things that I learned about fatherhood through working with moms. And so let's just get this thing started because I got a lot of stuff to lay on you. Number 1. We got much to learn from each other as moms and dads, and I think that one of the things that we do a disservice to our children about is that we don't communicate with each other. And so we find ourselves in these silos as moms and dads, and society does a great job through systems and through policies and through laws that serve as divisiveness and divisions between the two of us. If we just came together and talked collectively about our co-parenting desires and our dreams and goals that we have for our children, we probably can do a much better work and find some much better solutions for the well-being of our children. And so I learned over this Saturday that as much as I thought I was going to go in and teach these single moms about how dads feel and what we think about, and to give them some perspective through dad's eyes around particularly raising boys, as much as I thought I was going to teach them, I learned much more from them. Secondly, the title of the workshop was called Raising Him Alone, and what I understood after doing that workshop is what I always understood, I just didn't know how to articulate it until Saturday. And thus, what we have decided to do is actually change the name of the seminar from Raising Him Alone to Standing in the Gap. Because what we do know about fatherhood is that, first of all, single motherhood only denotes marital status, not parenting status. Thus, what we know is for every single mom, there is a single dad. The question and challenge in that conversation is, where are they? And how have they been built in terms of their capacity to be parents to serve equally in the responsibilities of being co-parents? And so as I begin to start thinking about this work in the notion of standing in the gaps for moms, then it begins to give me some perspective on the things that I need to do in my work, particularly with fathers and with moms as well, and with children, on how do we close the parenting gaps for our children to create a safety net so our children won't fall through when either parent is absent from their lives. Number 3, parenting is not meant to be alone. And so it's not designed to be alone. Biologically, it's not designed to be alone. When we came together in love to create these children, we didn't do it alone. We did it together. And the only way that we're going to take care of our children and get our children on track the way that they're supposed to be is if we understand that parenting is not meant to be alone. And I know that some of you will say, I know that, Mr. Braswell, but I'm trying and I can't make that help. And all I can say to you is that we just got to keep trying, and I got to keep working, and people got to keep praying, and we got to do all the things that we need to do to make sure that you don't have to bear this work, right, that you have to do in raising your children alone. Number 4. This is not just about moms, right? This is something that I learned on Saturday, because we try to focus and sometimes we get a little distracted by thinking that our children are just left at the hands of moms. And what I learned on Saturday in our class is that I had grandmothers, I had aunties, I had cousins, I had caregivers, I had friends, all happened to be women. However, they weren't just moms. And so what that said to me is that not only do we have an issue with absent dads, we also have an issue with absent moms. And so we have to be very aware and clear about that. And so when we talk about parenting, we got to talk about it from the perspective of what we can do as adults to ensure that our children are well raised, they're loved, nurtured, respected, and given the opportunity to be the best they can be. And that work has got to be around making sure that we educate adults about our roles in raising our children across the board. Number 5, and I think this is the biggest one that I learned from Saturday as I was talking to them, and I think that we all parent, and sometimes we express our problems, we express our difficulties, and we talk about these things from mouth to mouth, right? We express ourselves. We say something, they say something. We feel something about what they said. We say something else about how we feel about what they said. Then they say something else based on what we said about how they feel about what they said. And at the end of the day, we're having a conversation about nothing. We're having an argument about nothing. Because at that point, we're not even communicating, we're arguing. And yesterday, what I realized is that there were points in our conversation where we weren't talking mouth to mouth anymore. We were talking heart to heart. And our hearts were exchanging information from each other. And what I heard and what I felt from their hearts was that they were in that room because they needed answers. They needed solutions. They weren't in that room because they were trying to figure out ways to keep dads out of the lives of their children. They were in that room because they were trying to figure out ways to get dads into the lives of their children. And so whatever the problems are on our father's side, I got to figure out in the work that I do, how do I begin to close the gap between how mothers are feeling about the burdens that they express each and every day in raising their children, and what the fathers are talking about in terms of what they believe their burdens are each and every day. And we're only going to get to that conversation if we begin to have heart-to-heart conversations and stop having mouth-to-mouth conversations. When you met, when you got together, when you had the baby, all of that stuff you did from heart to heart. And now you find yourself in mouth-to-mouth relationships when I believe you got to get back to heart-to-heart relationships. And so that was some of the things that I learned on yesterday in doing our Raising Him Alone seminar for single moms, and to which we're going to be calling from now on Standing in the Gap. Co-parenting our children in a healthy environment. And so this is Kenny Braswell, and like I always like to leave you, always shoot high for your goals, because even if you miss, you'll be amongst the stars. And always be kind to others as you're kind to yourself, or you might find yourself by yourself. This is Kenny Braswell with 5 Flow. See you next week. Peace out.